Ever since the introduction of the hex, I've talked about how eventually the auction house is going to become pretty much obsolete. Initially, items like enchantments were moved over from the auction house to the bazaar. Now it's got to be said that for some items, it makes way more sense to have items on the bazaar. But majority of these first changes were implemented for quality of life. We can now do /hex, put our item in, and instead of having to pick out individual enchantments and so on, we can recombobulate, we can reforge everything from this one menu, which is great. I remember I uploaded this video here which was titled "The Auction House has been removed" because that's kind of what I felt like they were going to do. Now the biggest difference between things like recombobulators or scrolls, or even things like pet candies, no matter what variation of the item, it's always going to be the same. You can't upgrade it. A pet candy is always going to be a pet candy, and a recom is always going to be a recom. And on face value, to be honest, there's no point in them even being on the auction house. A system like the bazaar works way better for those sort of items. For most people. For items like pieces of armor, pets or weapons, it's not quite the same. Take for example Necron boots. Clean Necron boots at 18.3 million, and of course the bog standard, they've got no upgrades on them whatsoever. Whereas if we take a look at these mango boots, they're recombobulated, 5-starred, hot potatoed, gemstone slots unlocked, gemstones in them, Legion of 4, lots of enchantments, mango dyed. Trying to sell an item like this on the bazaar will never work, and the auction house makes 100 million times more sense to have these items on there. Items like pets have pet candies, pet items, different levels, wouldn't work selling them on the bazaar, and weapons wouldn't work on the bazaar for the same reason as armor. However, pretty much everything else, bar a few items, will definitely work on the bazaar. Recently there's been tons and tons of items moved over from the auction house to the bazaar, such as mushroom soup. I mean, no one really uses mushroom soup anyway, so it's not a big deal. All of your pet upgrades, or not all of them, but some of them, are now over on the bazaar. Of course, a while back, all the essence was put on the bazaar, which was a great addition. It should have always been on the bazaar, or somewhere. Things like diamond spreadings are now on the bazaar, which is really annoying because for early game, diamond spreading is probably one of the best flips. I mean, when you're really just starting off a profile. Of course, now the price of diamond spreading is 4k as opposed to anywhere between 10 and 30k on the AH. There's lots of different items that have been added to the bazaar, but let me just go over some of the most important ones. This section here, catacombs, okay, well, this is terrible. Well, it's good in a sense, but mostly terrible. Okay, when I say it's good in a sense, it means you can basically just straight up quick sell and not have to bother with the AH with a lot of the stuff that you don't want to bother with, such as fell pearls, spirit leaps, traps. Who wants a trap? Why are they even a thing? Get rid of them. Dungeon, like chest keys, no one's really that bothered. Like there's so many different things that people just aren't bothered about, and it's just way easy to quick sell to the bazaar. Now what really annoys me is, well, at the end of a dungeon run, if you have lots of things in your inventory, you either salvage the items that need to be salvaged, you sell to the NPC, and then anything that you've basically got from the previous run, I don't know about anyone else, but I just sell all my inventory back to the bazaar, because it makes sense to do that, books from the bazaar and so on. However, Super Boom TNT and Spirit Leap, pretty much essential. All players pretty much have them when they're doing dungeons, unless they have the Infinite Boom or Infinite Leap, which combined costs almost 100 million coins, which is ridiculous. You can now sell these to the bazaar. So what this means is, say if you have like an inventory full of things, you have to basically go through individually, click on the item and sell to the bazaar that way, instead of just selling inventory. It's a pain, and the amount of times that I've sold these 2 items to the bazaar and then had to rebuy them back or go through my chest to find more, it's just a pain. It's just annoying. There should be an option on the bazaar whereby you have to tick a box next to an item, and it means that they can't be sold to the bazaar, so I don't keep selling these goddamn items. They're not expensive, and it may just take an extra 30 seconds after every run that I accidentally sell them, but it's just annoying. Also, Kismet Feathers. If you have Kismet Feathers in your inventory, the same thing happens. Honestly, it's not a massive issue, but it's just frustrating. As for everything else, it's better off on the bazaar, 100%. But before we go any further, you should subscribe to the channel, become part of the 24%, there's no reason not to. You should also join the Discord server, it's linked in the description of every single video. There's more things that have been added to the bazaar too, but I guess they're probably the main things. Things like sorrows, actually, if I can find them. Okay, at this point, I don't even know where they're under. There's so many different sections. You can now sell sorrows to the bazaar. Great. I don't see, to be honest, it makes sense. A sorrow is a sorrow, why not? But what annoys me is, yeah, in a way, I can understand some of the items were put in the bazaar for quality of life. Putting a sorrow onto the bazaar is not quality of life at all. Like, it's just not. I mean, the fact they can insta-sell them maybe speeds things up a little bit. But when I say quality of life, I relate back to the hex. Understandably, pretty much everything that needed to be on the hex has already been moved over to the bazaar. Which means I guess it's a little bit more convenient to have all things you now have on the bazaar, considering you can it's easy to insta-buy instead of having to look through different listings on the auction house. But, okay, I've not auction house flipped in a while, and sometimes I come back to it every now and then. But the auction house is it's just barren. Realistically, it is just armor, it's just weapons, it's just pets. I guess you've got your accessories too. Obviously, they can't really... I mean, some of them probably could go on the bazaar. A lot of them could be enriched, recombobulated, and so on. You've got all of your random miscellaneous items that... yeah, well, I don't know. Like, they can be on the auction house because, like... it's just, like, full of, like, nulls and stuff like that. Like, what's the point? Items like Ancient Roses and Endstone Roses, which are now on the bazaar, can still be sold in the auction house, which is just very odd. And then other than that, you've just got things like God Pots, drills. A lot of the things you can buy from Elizabeth's shop, pet skins. You know, it's going that way. Everything's just going to the bazaar. Of course, as well, things like holes, farming equipment, and stuff like that's going to be on the AH as well, because of the amount of variables that you could actually have on the item, I guess. It just kind of pains me a little bit. Initially, when they took like ultimate enchantments and then regular enchantments off the auction house and put them onto the bazaar, it killed probably one of the best mid-game money-making methods in terms of flipping. Ultimate Wise Books, Wisdom, Legion, they could make just a ridiculous amount of coins. And obviously that was killed off. Bazaar flipping, like enchantments like that, it is nowhere near the same as AH flipping them. Massive difference. You see, if we take an item like a Sorrow, that item, the Sorrow, is pretty much the same as Dragon Fragments. You can just craft armor with essential fragments. I question why Sorrows weren't always on the bazaar if Dragon Fragments are on there, because it kind of makes no sense to have them on the auction house. That's besides the point though. I'd say quite a lot of the time when I auction house flipped, I would probably even flip with Sorrows. You know, you can buy quite a lot individually, sell them for more in bulk, and things like that. That's just not an option anymore. Don't get me wrong, things like AH flipping is far from dead. Majority of the profit that most people made anyway was from armor, weapons, pets. There's a lot of money to be made from farming items too, but you've got far less options of what to flip, just purely because of the bazaar, the hex, and things moving over to the bazaar. Once again, on the flip, it's not a bad thing. Makes things more convenient, quality of life and so on, but at the same time, kind of kills what a lot of people do. Honestly, in terms of AH flipping anyway, a lot of the time when you see, you know, a good item that you think, oh, I can buy that and make a good few million coins profit, you never get it anyway because there's bots set up left, right and centre. It's kind of sad. While we're on the topic of the bazaar and just the bazaar in general, I've noticed something very, very, very odd that happens quite a lot of the time. And that's huge discrepancies between buy prices and sell prices. And to be honest, I think this is a fundamental issue with the bazaar. There's multiple different reasons for this happening, such as in higher tier ultimate enchantments, sometimes it's just not the demand. There is items listed on the bazaar, some for way too expensive. Some of them are pretty much the only thing on the bazaar. I get people being able to dictate prices, but for really higher tier sort of ultimate enchantments, I think it makes more sense to have them on the AH, just purely because people can actually list them for the price that they're actually at instead of trying to manipulate the market. People are still going to manipulate the market on the AH, but it's way more obvious what people are doing. For instance, take Enchanted Melon Blocks. Yesterday, each Enchanted Melon Block had a buy price of 20 million coins and a sell price of 50,000 coins. I have a few theories for what was going on. Number one, potentially someone got a Spaceman offer, which was Enchanted Melon Blocks, so they've bought out pretty much the whole of the bazaar and well overpaid. Either that, it could have been someone trying to manipulate the market, or I believe that there is some way of, like, IRL trading with the bazaar, with the buy price. I don't know the specifics, but yeah. And I've noticed this with a lot of items. People in my guild have been telling me all the time. When I was doing my 24-hour foraging stream, it was going crazy. At one point, in the space of an hour, there was about 10 items that there was a ridiculous discrepancy between buy and sell prices. Because I know all too many people who have accidentally spent like 200 or 300 million coins on is what the equivalent of about 200k worth of melons, or pumpkins, or carrots. It's insane. Now, I'm not saying that crops shouldn't be on the bazaar, but what I think is there should be something in place that whereby if the price rises by a certain percentage in rapid succession, that there's some sort of failsafe on it. At the end of the day, if the bazaar buy price for one enchanted melon block is 20 million coins, and you press buy, you've bought that. Majority of people buying an item like that for that price have probably not realised the price. And I guess at the end of the day, it probably is on them at that point. But it's just a little bit, it feels a little bit like a scam. However, the scam is literally running straight through the bazaar. I don't know, it's kind of a little bit weird. Not gonna lie, I'm not a massive fan about so many items moving from the AH to the bazaar. I think the AH has been in the game for so long, it's never going to be removed, because obviously I've mentioned there's still a lot of items that literally can't be moved onto the bazaar. However, I just feel like it's a little bit sad. I agree, for a lot of items, quality of life, convenience, it makes more sense to have items on the bazaar. But at the same time, like, hey, are you trying to kill AH flipping? I don't know. But let me know what you think in the comments. What do you think of the new changes to the bazaar in regards to the new items that are now on the bazaar that were on the AH? Some items much better, some items painfully bad. The amount of super boom that was sold is unreal. Anyway, if you did enjoy today's video, make sure you leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.